Hello, hello, and welcome to another video. We are going to be talking about that little secret that you keep under your mattress. Not that. We are talking about that cash that you are stuffing under your mattress for the rainy day. And some of you are holding probably too much cash under there. Now, a lot of people are worried. We've got the elections around the corner. We've had kind of a volatile market. At least on paper. Actually, things have kind of smoothed their way out as time of this video, which is middle of August. But it is still one of those things that people are just worried and they want to sit on cash. Now, it's funny because when I think of mattress cash, I actually think of like Scrooge McDuck, like swimming through his cash, swimming through his gold coins in his huge mansion. And that would be considered to be kind of mattress cash, right? Cash that we have just stuffed under the mattress and are just relishing in. And there are a couple reasons why it's always good to have an emergency fund, right? I've talked about that endlessly on this channel of why you should have some extra cash, emergency fund, right? For those rainy days so that you're no longer living paycheck to paycheck. I always say, once you have cash in the bank, you're no longer living paycheck to paycheck, which is an amazing feeling, right? But there are a lot of cons to having too much cash, and we are going to go through that just as a quick reminder of why maybe you might be sitting on too much cash and maybe you want to consider something different. Now, of course, as I always say, everybody's different, everybody's situation is different. If you're saving for something in particular, like a home or something like that, maybe you would be sitting on more cash, right? So just make sure that you check in with whoever your financial professional is or whoever you turn to for money management advice and planning advice, and see what they have to say and have this conversation. And if you don't have anybody, feel free to reach out to us or make a comment below, and we're happy to answer any questions on a more one-to-one basis once we know what's kind of going on in your world. So, what are some of the myths that are around having too much cash under the mattress? One is security risk. You know, it's funny because we never really talk about security risk, but it's not that secure if it's just sitting at home. And I know people say, well, you know, Lisa, mine's in the bank. But there actually are quite a few people who have tons of cash just sitting at home. I'm not kidding. There are. And you know you if you are doing that, right? So it's not secure at home, right? You can have all the alarm systems and stuff, but it's not going to be secured against natural disasters or fires or anything like that. I guess if you have a huge safe, that might, you know, that's fire resistant and stuff, that might work. But just remember that once funds are gone, they're gone. There's no insurance that's going to cover cash that was just sitting at your house. You can't add that as a line item in your house warranty and your house insurance. Like, that's not part of it. Well, at least I don't think you can. If you can, let me know. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think so. I've never seen that, at least. So there's just no security when it comes to that. So if you are sitting at home with a bunch of cash sitting there, please take it to an FDIC insured bank, high yield savings account. We've talked about those before, something that has some insurance attached to it and is getting some kind of interest rate or rate of return. Even at a regular old bank that's getting nothing right now, still getting more than what you're getting sitting at home. And it's going to be safer. Another thing that people are forgetting is inflation. Now, we know inflation very much. That's all people want to talk about is inflation, but we keep talking about it in terms of prices of groceries, prices of everything going up, that kind of thing. And that is inflation. That is part of inflation, obviously. But we don't talk about the fact that your money has to keep up with inflation. Now, is it going to keep up with inflation as it is now or as it has been in the past couple of years? Probably not. We had a bad market and inflation was going up. Nobody's money was really keeping up with inflation at that time. But historically, inflation's around 2.5% to 2.75%. And so you want to try to keep your money keeping up with inflation, getting that kind of a rate of return or interest on your money so that your dollar stays a dollar. Your dollar keeps up with buying power. So, something that's $100 today is definitely not going to be $100 tomorrow. And you need to make sure that your money is keeping up with that inflation rate. And like I said, that historical 2.75% inflation rate is a good rule of thumb. We are going to have times that we're going to be in times of higher inflation than that, but it's just a good rule of thumb to have cash, trying to keep up with that, because people don't realize that if your cash is not keeping up with inflation, you are actually losing buying power, which is kind of like having a negative rate of return in the stock market. Your dollar might still look like a dollar, and it makes you feel good and it makes you feel safe and secure because it's still a dollar, but your dollar has lost buying power. And so technically it went down 2.75% if that's what inflation is that year. And you have to think of it that way. You have to have your money accruing some kind of interest, trying to keep up with inflation. That does not mean take all your cash and stick it into risky investments to get inflationary things. No, there's got to be a balance to everything. But you do need to have your cash doing something for you to keep up with inflation. All right. So opportunity costs. People don't realize that their need for safety is often holding them back from having some opportunities that they're missing out on. So let's say you've got way excess cash. Any advisor you sit down with says you have way too much cash, you need to get some invested. Let's just say in the market. There could be other investments that would be better suited for you, but let's just say in this scenario, they're saying the market is what you should put it in. If you don't do that, and let's say you were planning on putting it in an average 50% stocks, 50% bonds portfolio, the market as a whole goes up 10%, you would hopefully have gotten it, let's say about 5%, because you're 50% stocks, 50% bonds. Bonds are, safe. Well, I wouldn't say safe. They're safer. They still have they have still have risk associated with that. We saw that in 2022. But, let's say we got half of what the market got, just for easy math. And so you got 5%. Well, you're keeping up with inflation. That's good. But if you don't do that, you've now lost yourself a 5% gain. And you are giving up on opportunities out there to create more money for yourself. Have your money create money for you. And that's important. You want to make sure that your money is making you some money in some capacity. Does all your money need to do this? No. But you do have to have a balance. And unless you will have unlimited amounts of money to save, it makes getting to financial freedom so much easier if you do have buckets and have gone through the risk profiles and done all your work to have some money making some money for you. It just gets you there faster. It's like, I did a video about this before, but it's like those trammulators in the airport, right? The trammulators are the moving sidewalks that you have. Really, everybody can just walk. I mean, not everybody, but most people can just walk and get to where they want to go. But the trammulators make it easier to get there. So having some money invested in the markets or invested someplace that you understand the risk and reward, you understand how it's doing, the taxation, all those different things, you've done all your homework, that tramulator can take you there faster, just like an investment can. And so you're really missing out on some opportunity there. And you're missing out on just lots of different things that are out there that could be making life easier for you. So I would say those are kind of the three main reasons that people, are missing out if you're sitting on too much cash. I know that there is a fear associated with investing, associated with putting your money at risk at all. But by not doing anything, you are also putting your money at risk. And it's very hard to get people to see that point because the dollars stay the same in the bank account or might even go up a little bit if you've got a little bit of interest coming in. But if that interest isn't keeping up with historical inflation, it makes it hard to do. Now, when when interest rates are down, does that mean that I've got to move everything to investments to keep up with inflation? No. Again, it's a balancing act. But you've got to make sure that your fear isn't making your balancing tilt too much to security in times that are scary. Markets have bad days, it gets pushed through in the media, and I inevitably get calls from people saying, should we pull out? Should we do this? Should we do that? And I always say, I have always said, it's not always in the future, of course, but I've always told them no, because we are set for this risk for you. We have figured out your cash to investment ratio. We have figured out how it works with your goals. And so if you have a really well laid out plan and you understand how it works and you're checking on it pretty regularly, let's say a couple of times a year, it doesn't have to be every month, but you're checking on your balance and you're understanding how all your different components work together, then it takes the fear out of the cash, the holding on, hoarding cash idea, because really you're just putting yourself in a different risk than you feel like you're running away from. You're not in safety, you're still losing. And you need to have that balance so that you've got some investments that are doing better than inflation, that are making up for cash alternatives that might not be getting inflationary rates of return at that point. And you've got to have those things in the middle. You've got to have your middle bucket of risk, your higher bucket of risk, your low bucket of risk. You've got to have an understanding of your timeline, what we're trying to accomplish, what your lifestyle looks like, what we're trying to provide for. That is a way that you can kind of get away from hoarding money like Scrooge McDuck. I always want to call him Duck McScrooge. Scrooge McDuck hoarding his cash. Now he had so much cash that, maybe this wasn't a problem, but I would say that his money wasn't making money for him. He was working and stuff and making money, but he was not probably doing the right thing when it came to his cash, unless he was investing. I just never saw that episode, but I don't think he was. And so you've got to really realize that your safety when it comes to money is not always safety. It has actually got its own set of risks and issues that come up with that you're just not aware of, or you're turning a blind eye to. So if you have too much cash, you might want to consider building out a really good plan so that you know what that balance is and you can feel comfortable taking some of that cash and maybe moving it to the moderate bucket, or maybe moving it to the higher risk bucket if that's what fits for you. So I guess the theme of this is have a plan, have an understanding of what's going on, because when we are just, I'm going to use this word, it sounds mean, but it's not, ignorant about what is going on in the world, and we just do what is emotionally good for us, we feel better, that's not always the right thing to do. And just feeling better in the moment can really hurt you down the long run. And that can absolutely happen with money. It feels better to just not pay attention to it. It feels better just to see the same dollars in the bank account that were in there 2 years ago. It just feels better, but that's not helping you in the long run. So set out a really solid plan, and that will get you to financial freedom much faster, which is pretty much everybody's goal. Not everybody's, but pretty much everybody's goal. So I hope that helped. If you have any questions, you don't know how to build out a plan, I might actually do a video. Let me know, leave some comments below if you'd like to hear what a solid plan kind of looks like. Obviously it's gonna be generic, but I'm happy to do that. And if you would like some help kind of determining what your plan looks like, we're always happy to help. So feel free to schedule some time with us, and we're happy to be there and guide you through that. All right, so for the next time, we are going to be talking about something different. It's more about mistakes that you might be making with your retirement savings. Are you putting them in the wrong place? A lot of people might be doing that. So tune in next time, and until then, keep learning about finance and being those financial geeks that I know you are, in a good way, of course. Take care. Bye-bye.